Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dead Unicorn, the Tabletop Role-Playing Game Club. My name is Corey, and I am here with my great friend, Tarek, a.k.a. Loti.
Yeah, baby. Look at that. Look at that hairline. Booyah.
You are also allowed to
Oh
give
my
me
God.
a derogatory nickname now.
Let's call it High C.
I love High C.
Yeah, exactly.
I am Ecto Cooler, baby. So, today, it's Sunday afternoon. So, what do we do on Sunday afternoon? We rewrite Legend of the Five Rings.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. Not the lore, not the history, the rule system from Fantasy Flight games.
Just the parts we usually cry about.
Yeah, the parts we cry about the most. And it's I gotta say, it's not anything against the system. We love the system and we want to make it better. Even better. We want to keep the stuff we like and expand on the stuff we don't. We're not affiliated with anybody who owns Legend of the Five Rings, Fantasy Flight, Asmodee, and Edge Studios.
I must say I have gone to the same gaming store as John Wick, the guy who made the game, but that's it. That's the closest I've ever gotten to L5R.
I've played some role-playing games with John Wick.
Yeah, I think I have two at convention.
Yeah. I think me and you were both in the same game.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to say hello to Wargiz, Dark Folklore, and Benjamin Combe in the comments. Thanks, guys. Let's read what we got here. Just found out about the stream. Could be useful. I recently got some people to play L5R, 5E, and I'm slowly working on a second one-shot for them. Well, that's wonderful. That's freaking amazing, man. Welcome to the hobby. I realized I needed to simplify the rules since it was not fun keeping track of all the terrains, conditions, and other stuff. Yeah?
Yeah. As a GM, this game can be a pain if you're not willing to just like you were saying, streamline some stuff, which can get really complicating or complicated itself, or just like ignoring stuff. Like the beginner game for this version of L5R does that exactly. It lies to you about how rules work throughout the first module, because they're like, we don't want to overwhelm your new players with a bunch of rules that will not make any sense to them yet. So streamline it down to just these things, and we'll slowly introduce rules over time in other books, and that kind of works. But
So
it can be difficult. It can be difficult.
I want to do something special for my patrons out there. Like I said, you can have access. Let me put up the document. So we have this document over here that is basically our thoughts, our what we want to put into the rules, what we like to do. And it is it's kind of fleshing out, it's kind of filling out as we go. I've done some formatting to it. That said, you can also be a contributor on that. If you are a patron, you can go to this document and make comments on these as suggested edits. Anybody who does suggested edits on it will become a patron editor on this. So please go there. We will give priority to these comments. You're the guys who are like supporting us. So yeah, let's make a great thing together.
Yeah.
So also it is a Google Doc. So that's all kind of what it is. Also, we like to go through our comments before we get into this. I got a few of them since last time. Having PCs to roll for everything, attacking and defending. Let's not have to worry about how much NPC would help. Yeah. So we're going to do... I've made some NPCs for this episode, and just to see how they would work and if it is easier, we're going to look at that. But first, let's go through comments from last time on all of our videos. Starting with 6 days ago, Yes, 6 days ago. On the L5R rewrite part 5. I did not know that about the firing WTF. Yeah, you have to you have to succeed on the roll to turn your strife into bonus successes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stances are worded like you don't understand how the stances actually work. It took me a while to figure it out too. Like Water Ring has 2 stipulations on it. One is the second action you can't roll for, and the second stipulation is it can't be another action type that
Of
you've
the
already
same-
taken.
Yeah.
So
the same type.
if you have attacked and you want to do a assist, I think assisting is also considered an attack action, right?
I think it's an attack, support, and scheme action or something like that. Yeah.
Assist is an attack, scheme, and support action. So if you did an attack, if you did a scheme, if you did another support,
A guard. Yeah.
any of those 3, you cannot do an assist action after that. You know what I've done with that rule? I've thrown it out. But yeah, that's it's interesting what you can actually do and not do compared to the rules.
It gets even more complicated when you add in all the techniques that you can do, and those have their own types of actions attached to them as well. So, and some of them do have take an action, some of them don't take some of them do take a roll, and some of them don't take a roll. And whether you can use those and implement them, it can get really complicated.
Yes. Another commenter on part 3 said, "Hey, you addressed my comment. I'm really enjoying this design process." Well, thanks for being here and thanks for commenting. Then they go on. For me, the major problem with bleeding in the rules as written that came up is that you effectively stop bleeding when you're compromised. A compromised character can't keep strife symbols, and if you can't keep strife symbols, you can't take damage from bleeding or from dangerous terrain. It's like, I'm too stressed out to bleed.
Yeah. I don't have time for this.
Who's got time for bleeding?
I know I'm in the middle of a burning building. I'm freaking out. I do not care if I'm getting burned. It doesn't matter. It does not happen.
There's glass all over the floor. Who cares? I'm having an existential crisis over here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god. Yeah, it's very strange how how Strife interacts with just about everything, and how they're just poorly worded conditions. I think they're just really poorly worded conditions.
Smaller. This is on part 2, which was about opportunities. Smaller opportunity changes. First, remove all opportunities that should be abilities. That's kind of what we were doing. Then players may prepare opportunity equivalent to their ring value. So I guess he wants to make a suite of opportunity abilities, I guess. Then they get basic general option free. They're prepared ring opportunities specific to use in those stances and any class ones. They can change their prepared choices over a rest, but outside of that, they are stuck with their limited choices. This is like
prepared spells.
Like prepared
in
spells.
D&D.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like that necessarily, but it is one way of kind of shortening that list down so that. But players are going to get frustrated with this really quickly because they're going to be like, "Oh, I didn't know we were going to encounter, and so I prepared the wrong stuff," and then blah 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 blah. It can get bogged down in arguments, I think.
If it's an interesting idea, I just don't think it's less complicated. I think it's more complicated.
Yeah, because then every time you're going to do a rest or transition scenes or whatever, people are going to want to re-prepare, and they're going to it's just delaying the complexity, or not the complexity, but the time taking of choosing those opportunities to another point in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it'll work like that.
Point,
yeah,
it's just like you're pushing that opportunity.
But the good thing about it is that everybody's doing it all at once, hopefully, rather than on each roll, which would be a separate
Yeah, that's true.
time sync for everybody. If they're prepared with social opportunities and a combat breaks out instead, it makes sense that that leaves them without opportunities to use. Oh, and you get any opportunity specific to a particular technique. Um, and that person also uh, has a comment on part 4 about conditions. Uh, as a possible idea to give NPCs flavor, you could still give them specific consequences that are activated by a discarded die. For example, bringing in a scene from one of your past games, an NPC could have consequence strife 4 cost. When targeted by a melee attack, they may redirect the strike at an adjacent target other than the attack. So if a player attacks that specific NPC and discards enough dice with strife on that the consequence activates. So it's based on discarded dice, not kept dice. I guess that would be like any discarded dice are kind of given to the NPC for them to have. Maybe.
It's definitely a creative way of doing it.
It would make dice management even more thoughtful, as you may want to defensively hold on to a few more opportunities or even swallow a bit more strife to avoid causing a consequence, even if failing the roll. Also, the pressure to discard dice with strife gets increased as their strife gets higher, giving narrative reasons hostile NPCs are getting opportunities to turn the table. You could make it scarier and more likely to surprise them too by having any discarded exploding dice complete their explosions after being discarded. These are interesting ideas.
Yeah, I think you could make a different kind of system with those ideas and how you would have interplay between exchanging of dice. That sounds like a really interesting idea for like the base of a system.
I'm gonna have to mull this over this week. I'm gonna have to think about this. Also, he another comment by the same commenter on part 5 for terrain. I'm not a fan of spent as a condition name. It doesn't feel strong enough. It makes it feel like you have actively used your fatigue. Well, you have actively used your fatigue. It's a defense roll. You are actively defending. But he puts a parenthetical here, including possible sexual jokes. Yeah, I'm spent.
Going back to the dice exchange thing idea real quick, that reminds me, there's a lot of video games out right now that have dice exchange mechanics, and I feel like that's what this feels like, this idea. It feels like one of those video game mechanics where you exchange your dice with your opponent and come up with who has the best set of dice to complete a clash or whatever. That reminds me of these, like Dice-O-Mancer or Dice and Slash, I think is what another one is called. There's a few of them out there.
Going on, I think sapped could be a better term. Reeling is possibility too, but it suggests your behavior is a bit too much rather than just your condition. So I disagree. I think you are actively gaining fatigue because in the rules it says
you are choosing to defend.
You are choosing to defend, yeah. Even though you don't have a choice.
You're defending yourself against damage, which brings me back. I was watching the live stream from last week. You had talked about this and being like how you actively like defending in this game isn't necessarily making it harder for your opponent to hit you. Basic competence with a sword allows you to make these strike attacks. You're defending from that by taking fatigue to move out of the way or dodge or try to parry or whatever. And that's the act of defending. And then you were like, but erring gives you a higher TN to be hit. And I think that's just now you're taking, instead of a passive defense where you're just passively like saving your, like resisting yourself from getting a lethal blow delivered to you. In that case, you're doing an active defense where you're now more actively defending yourself with your intentional movements and how you're approaching it. And the fact that it gets better when you get higher rank means that you now have a better understanding of how to actively defend yourself in a conflict, rather than, and that's for a more defensively focused or defensively minded character, giving that ring a more intentional purpose. So I like the idea of it being more like I'm taking an active defense versus a passive defense that everybody kind of gets, and I think that gets back into like 7th C version of active versus passive defenses. Maybe that's kind of where they were drawing from in that sense. But yeah, I think I don't have a problem with you having multiple lines of defense, because then you also have your armor, which is also a way of defending yourself, because it will reduce the amount you have to spend fatigue in order to defend effectively against attack. So there's a lot of different layers that go on here that I think there's nuance in having those layers be approached.
So on the name change though, spent, sapped, Howard brought up the idea of, why are you calling it spent? Just call it fatigued. If they are taking fatigue and then they go above their endurance, it should just be called fatigued.
You've become fatigued. That's not bad. It's concise, but I don't like reusing the same term over and over again, which I think maybe you feel the same way about it. But fatigued isn't. I mean, it's concise. It's what it is.
Yeah. So I would like everybody who's watching to go on over to my community page. And I put up a poll there. Pardon me. I gotta take a drink here. I put up on the community page, what name would you like? Spent, fatigued, or sapped? Or maybe you think there's nothing wrong with incapacitated. You can go over there and we'll check this poll after the stream, when the stream's ending, and we'll check it again next week and see where we are.
Sorry, I'm giving my doggo a treat.
I'm going to check out the live stream chat now. I've been reading those.
Watching the live stream chat.
Yeah.
I had to give my dog a treat.
Let
him back inside and give him a treat.
I think minions being limited to one stance would be a good rule in general. I think minions not even having stances is fine by me.
Yeah, I don't think minions need stances. I don't necessarily think that NPCs need stances, but we can get into that.
I think NPCs need stances. I think they do. I think adversaries definitely, because like pushing, for sure. Having a technique that pushes characters from one stance to another or one approach to another is something that I think is core to Legend of the Five Rings. Out thinking your opponent, especially in a duel where you're like, oh, I picked what stance you're on and you're going to get 3 extra strife because of that. Yeah, I think adversary NPCs.
Okay, that's fair, but I feel like that's more an adversarial situation. Maybe NPCs can fall into that situation as well.
Just adversaries, not minions. Minions are fodder. They should be more fodder than the way they are. We're gonna go through them pretty quickly here.
We'll go through this in more detail.
Having the PCs roll for everything, attacking, defending. That's not how. Yeah, okay. Greetings, Rikashana. I don't want to get the players to just be in water and say I attack and then assist. Yeah. That's true. Like, that's why it's attack, scheme, or support action. Yeah, I attack and assist. That can be overpowering, I think. Yeah.
Or I attack and guard.
I do think it goes a bit too much into the Star Wars Edge system. I give points for the ingenuity. I'm just not a fan of this. I forgot what this could be in referring to. The dice sharing? Yeah. I think fatigue works because it's literally connected to the word fatigue. Yeah. Go vote. It's in the community page on YouTube. By the way, we're also on Moonbeam. I believe that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a link in the description if you want to watch us there. It's like an RPG online community streaming. A bit of it's like Discord. I don't know yet. We're figuring this out. It is an alpha. But there is a link in the description for 50 people. The first 50 people who grab that can go check out Moonbeam. I it wants to make it a place where creators of streaming content and RPG stuff and stuff like that, making RPG games in like Discord like forums and stuff, can really get paid for their work.
Well, I think the link is broken actually in the
Is
thing
it?
for
Oh no,
Moonbeam,
let me try it again. Let me give another. Oh no. Oh.
Oh good.
Oh.
Oh no.
Settings, moderation, payout. I have no idea how any of this works. Team invitations. Nope. Invite collaborators to your nope. Let's go here.
It's good to know that I can tip you in moonstones though.
Create a
I have
one-time
whole
link.
bunch of them.
Create an invitation. We're
Wow.
gonna create an invitation. 50 seats available. Yes. All right. We're gonna copy this invitation, and we're gonna go on over. I'm saying everything I'm doing out loud because I'm on a stream and I want to keep talking.
Oh, I can keep talking. Let's talk about some of the places that you left off. So I know that you were kind of like the stream ended kind of on terrains, and you talked about like the difference between dangerous and harmful terrain and how that could be kind of expanded upon. I'm not sure why dangerous terrain has less fatigue that you take than harmful. I guess because harmful could be mitigated entirely, and dangerous is just like you're gonna take one no matter what, which makes sense. And then I like the whole thing you were talking about of defiled affecting the people who are already like tainted. Like I'm an Oni and I'm in my own Oni Baron or whatever, and I'm getting tainted even more because I'm here, which makes sense. I think that anyone who's tainted should just ignore the effects, but still have those conditions. Like they are gaining more taint by being in proximity to Fuleng, right? And they're becoming more corrupted. But like the longer, like if you're a Hida and you go into the Shadowlands and you get tainted, but your goal is to get out before you get fully tainted or like even more tainted, then it doesn't really matter if you're tainted and gaining afflicted and defiled, because you're still trying to like to become pure again, I guess.
So do you think I should change this defiled? So I can, what you said, I think I can do this.
I like the only affects non-tainted characters. I think that kind of captures a little bit of what I was saying.
No, it doesn't, because you're like, you want it, because you're like, oh, if you're still tainted, you should be able to get afflicted by it, you know. So maybe I should change it to this. Maybe I'm going to keep that here, but I'm going to write something here. Creatures created from Goku are not affected by defiled. Tainted characters gain they gain some. Hold on, I gotta look to see how it works exactly.
How tainted characters gain taint.
All right, at the end of the scene, each character who is defiled must make a TN2. Okay, the tainted characters gain 1 reroll versus the defiled
Condition.
terrain. Not condition, it's a terrain.
Or terrain, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, terrains.
Per Shadowlands disadvantage they have. Huh?
Not bad.
What does chat think?
Because I do 100% think that, like, if you're a creature of Jigoku or like fully tainted, like if you're an ogre or a goblin who's fully tainted, it doesn't really matter to you as much if it's the foul terrain. Like
So
that might be the good stuff for you. You know, that might give you eat some tainted muck, and you keep the tainted doctors away. You know, keeping you good and healthy. But if you're a tainted character who might want to like redeem themselves one day, like if you're Hida Kasada and you're a little tainted, but you want to get, you know, you want to remove that taint someday, then it does matter. But it might, the more tainted you become, I think the less of an issue it becomes. Right?
so should it be only affects non-tainted characters, or uh, or should it be it affects tainted characters, but only if they're not like creatures born of Jigoku, like, and then they get bonuses to resist because they're already.
Yeah, the more tainted you get, the more resistant you become to it. I
Yeah.
think is fair.
Okay,
100%.
I'm gonna delete this part then. That says
Yeah.
and that's the new defiled.
But the less tainted you are, you still have a hard time dealing with this. And I'd put the same thing under afflicted, right? Afflicted, if you're, well, I guess we already talked about.
Yeah, we already talked about afflicted. Afflicted's good.
Yeah,
Afflicted
is fine the way it is.
Yeah.
As long as you're not a tainted being, right? If you're a creature of Jigoku, I'd say again, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you're afflicted, it doesn't really matter.
Let me see.
At
Chat's
least
going
with
crazy.
the Shadowlands.
I would rather see exhausted. Exhausted already is a condition that means you haven't slept. So we talked about that.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, that doesn't work.
We have to change around all the wording if we wanted to read some of these.
We have to start shuffling shells around like crazy, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to NPCs. Unless you want to go back to terrains, I'd rather look at the NPCs right now. This is what.
Let's go with that. I was just filling air.
So,
for you.
I made 2 NPCs here. One is an adversary, and one is a minion. And as you can see, the minion is much smaller and much easier to look at. I think the adversary, it might be just as complicated as a regular NPC that's already there. I don't know.
Hold on. So I want to talk about this perspective shift, right? So combat political or combat intrigue, either way we want to do that. I think combat political is probably fine for this because of how L5R traditionally separated these two concepts, where you had your like chi, your force and chi or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't mind that. Those being the base TN of an action an opponent takes against the PC, that the PC needs to succeed at in order to counteract them.
Right.
If it's a combat scenario, if it's a political scenario, rings, I would imagine also having the same situation of setting a TN, right? If there is a specific check that they're going to try to make or a thing they're going to do, it's going to go against their ring, perhaps, right? Doesn't necessarily need to, but and then all the rest of these, right? Your focus, your vigilance, those are checks that people are going to have to make against you. Your honor, glory, status, those are things that are going to be needed in order to gauge your self against an NPC in a sense, especially in social situations. I like the idea of having advantages that add or subtract from those TNs.
They don't. They just make rerolls. So yeah, an advantage will force a PC when they're defending or trying to stop the NPC from doing something to reroll 2 of their successful dice. A disadvantage will let the PC reroll anything that they want, like dice that they don't want that are either have strife on them or don't have successes and they want more successes, anything like that.
But for a specific ring, right?
I don't think Fooling liked you touching his tainted condition flavored text.
Yeah.
And then I have abilities. And abilities are actually consequences. Right? So I have School of the Wolf here. This is just a I forgot. I gotta put it back up on the screen for everybody. Ah, ha, ha. So abilities are consequence, and here we got School of the Wolf. It is a combat consequence. That's how I said it was. I don't know. I'm just putting tags on them to see how that works. And you can get rid of this consequence by spending 2 either opportunity or bonus successes, or 1 if you're on water stance, and maybe 3 on fire stance. It's harder to get through it if you're on fire stance.
Yeah, because you're going all out at that point.
And it's easier because this Ronin is going to redirect your attack. That's the Ronin's ability. So the Ronin can declare that they are spending 3 fatigue to activate School of the Wolf when targeted by an attack action. If that action succeeds, it is redirected to an adjacent target.
That still would have screwed over my Ronin character in our stream.
Striking as fire. Also, you can mitigate this with 2 or 1 water. Increase the severity of any critical strike done with a weapon by a Ronin Bushi's fire ring. So I was like, instead of making it so extra opportunities give you extra severity or deadliness on your weapon, I was like, they don't roll dice. So either I could make it dependent on the PC's die roll versus them, which would be like how many strife they keep, but like that's too complicated. That's like let's get through this. Let's just make it a static number. 3, or the NPC's fire ring. 3 on combat. Or the Ronin Bushi's, we can just say combat.
Yeah, combat.
That sounds great. 3. That's great. That makes sense. It's just easy. And then critical strike. All adversaries will probably have this one. Performing a strike action, if successful, critically strike. And anybody can mitigate that with 1 bonus success or 1 opportunity. They can just be like, that goes away. I don't want your critical strike.
Well, then how does an NPC effectively critical strike?
Oh, if you don't keep any bonus successes or opportunity, if you're like, I just defended, I don't know. This is interesting. It's like you have to fail the roll and not have any opportunity on the roll, and then you get critically struck.
Yeah. And are we saying that defense is going to be an active thing now, where you're going to be rolling like a fitness check or
a fitness check,
like a martial arts melee,
or a martial arts melee, or maybe we make a new skill called martial arts defense. Okay. So, I have a question. Since the Ronin makes this call out and activates it when targeted, is it intended for players to just then always only keep 1 die and fail to avoid the effect? That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, they know that this is a consequence, that they can just be like, well, I'm just gonna fail the roll. But you know what we can do? Once per round, if the roll fails, they are rebated the fatigue and may try again this turn or this round. There. Now, if they don't let it happen, the Ronin can keep doing it.
Or if they fail their attack check, maybe it doesn't even need this. Maybe regardless of if you succeed or fail, it still redirects the attack, and because of the skill of the Ronin, they are forcing your hand to attack that person.
Yeah. Once per round when targeted by attack action.
because it's not saying that it's going to critical strike that person,
So
right? And
yeah.
because of the way that this works, I'd also point out they are doing this preemptively, so it's not like it can critical strike or what have you, because the player would want to then, as soon as they know, want to mitigate their role as much as possible, probably.
Yeah, and
If they're not going to
remember
keep the extra two opportunity to critical strike unless you can use this as a reaction to them hitting you.
when I
Like
use
once
this
per round as a reaction
when I
to
use
being
this
hit.
when I use this against you, I was able to redirect the attack, and it was a critical strike, and it was like terrible.
Yeah, because I knew I wanted to hit this person and try to kill them in one strike, so I was doing everything I could to do that. But this works as a reaction to getting hit in the current edition.
So with
right?
a normal strike, this can't critically hit. But if somebody uses a special ability that turns it into a critical strike or anything like that, yeah, it's gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm. But I'd also say this should still be in reaction to a player declaring a certain type of attack, right? When targeted by an attack action, yeah, I guess it already kind of implies that when they're targeted by the attack action. Even if the player fails its attack check or attack roll.
Yeah, it is redirected to an adjacent target as if it hits.
Redirected as if it hits. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I think we got it. Yeah. Maybe depending on the attack succeeds or fails, decides on whether it's directed into whether those it's directed into are allies or enemies. I don't know if that was.
I mean, it's intended to allow the Ronin to choose the person as long as they're adjacent. So they can choose not to use this if it's like the only people who are adjacent to them are the person attacking them and one of their own allies, and choose not to use it in that sense. And then if it is, let's say, two player characters who are adjacent to the Ronin, then the Ronin can use this to attack the other adjacent player. I think that's kind of the intention behind it, because if he's just willy-nilly letting other people attack his own allies, I mean, I guess you could in that sense. There's nothing in this rule that we've written that would stop them from doing that. So if they're like, I don't want to get hit and I don't mind betraying the dude beside me, so like fuck it, let him attack that person, that's perfectly fine in the way that we've worded this. And if it's not, if it's the other way, I want to hit another player character and there's a player character beside me, you can do it that way as well.
I think there's already
precluded here.
I think there's already way too many costs and ways to mitigate this already baked into this. Because first, you can just the player can spend the appropriate amount of opportunity or bonus successes to negate it. Second, the Ronin can only do it once per round. And third, they have to spend 3 fatigue in order to do it.
Which is a big cost, considering this NPC only has 12 endurance total, and that's like a quarter of their health already gone.
So there's a lot of stuff working against it, but I think we got it. I think we got it dialed in.
Fatigue, which cannot be reduced with armor or by armor.
Well, it's not damage; it's fatigue, but whatever.
That's true. I just wanted to say, like, it cannot be reduced. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Taking this fatigue to do it.
Yeah, just saying spending fatigue makes it so armor can't reduce it. Armor only reduces damage, but we may change that because damage is a weird. Yeah.
And not only that, but there might be other spells or techniques or abilities that could say reduce fatigue.
So let's move on to Constricted Ashigaru. This is our minion. I added the Girya Ninja to the NPC sheet, which should have been there. It should be on all NPC. I don't know why it's not. Considering that there is an ability under opportunities that say figure out the Girya Ninja of your target, and yet
none of them have it.
None of them have one. But Ashigaru as a minion does not deserve those. It does have an advantage, but it does not have fatigue or strife. Basically, how this works is...
and it doesn't have void points.
It doesn't have void points either. Yeah, I got rid of void points for it. No void points for minions. So basically, if you hit them, they go down. If you scare them, they run away. That's it. That's how it works. It's really easy and simple. Mm-hmm. They're minions.
And they could be a Ronin too. It's not like they have to be a peasant or something like that.
No. Obviously, like you can change any adversary into a minion if you want.
Or any minion into an adversary.
Yeah. Exactly. There can be a really buff conscripted Ashigaru who's got a name now. He's,
Yeah. Like the Nemesis system in Shadow of Mordor. That one peasant beat you that one time, and now it's a true adversary.
Now he's become a captain.
Exactly.
He's leveled up. He's leveled up to Red Ranger.
And that one lion Bushi that you humiliated back at the beginning of the game now is a minion for the rest of the game.
Right.
Have fun with it. Yeah.
Anyways, if you notice, like this one under abilities does not have a consequence. Maybe I should have used a different kind of Ashigaru. Because when an Ashigaru provides assistance, that character gains +1 success if a PC or increases the TN by 1 to stop them if an NPC. Basically the same stuff you see in the book, just worded differently so I don't have copyright issues.
Yeah. You could also do something like give them one ability that is just an attack action that is like negated if you get 2 successes or something like that.
If you notice in this entire book, there will be in this entire like rewrite kind of thing, there will be no mention of Crab Clan or Crane Clan. There none of that. Because as soon as I do that, I have to make this. I have to pull this out of the paid Patreon thing. Because the lore is all copyrighted, but the rules are not. And as long as I use different wording, we're all good. So please support me.
Yeah, please.
Please. I'm over here with low T.
I also think that maybe making attacks be something that counter attacks.
Excuse me?
Yeah, so I might need to explain this better. Like if I'm running an NPC and your PC attacks that NPC, both attacks, like how do I explain this well? Like think attack counterattack in like kendo, right?
Right.
If I'm attacking you, you attack me at the same time. We're kind of trading off blows.
Right.
That happen near simultaneously. So if a consequence, if you think about it, an attack roll could just be a consequence of your attack roll, right?
Yes, it can. And in fact,
so if the consequence
and that's what
opponent attacks you back.
That's what right? School of the Wolf does. So let's write down. Let's do a combat real quick. One is initiative, right? And an NPC's initiative is equal to their focus or vigilance. Plus combat or political, depending on the conflict type. That's it. If it's a combat scene, they add their combat. If it's a political scene, they add their political. If it's something they're prepared for, they add their focus. If it's not prepared, they use their vigilance. And there's no rolling involved. You just get a number, and you just use that number.
Yeah.
2. All characters go in initiative order with ties going to the lower honor. Just like regular stuff. 3. If a PC attacks, their TN is equal to the NPC's combat.
Or politics based on the type of...
Yeah, modified by their physicality. Or political, modified by their demeanor. 4. Four is if an NPC attacks, the player makes a defense roll against it based on their stance and skill. Failure means they take damage / fatigue and have to mitigate consequences. Like a critical strike. There may be opportunity and consequences for their attack. Something like that. Yeah. And that's it. That's the combat loop. That's the play
And then
loop.
they can also take other actions as necessary, right? Like
Yeah.
a PC on their turn can pick whatever actions, including attack actions.
Yeah.
NPCs, same thing.
Yeah, so you can still move one range band and take an action. Every character can do that. That's perfectly fine. And then I don't know what we're gonna do with range bands. We might change that. I think all we have to do really is change the 2 types of range bands for like firing things and moving. So we can call like a range band something for like how you throw or shoot something, and instead of calling what you're moving through a range band, we can call it like a movement ratio or something. I don't know.
Movement speed.
Do adversaries have the bonus of stances? Yes, but I think we're gonna have to modify them just a little. There'll be like the NPC stances.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that. So like an NPC,
like how they work for each type of character.
Earth, air, fire, water, void. So on Earth stance, PCs have to use one more opportunity to affect them with
the condition,
critical strikes, and conditions. Yep. Air, NPCs have +1 TN to hit, no matter their rank. Because they're already being modified by their combat or political.
Yeah, makes sense.
Fire is, I don't know. We'll have to figure out what fire exactly does since they are no longer
Give an opponent extra strife.
No, because your strife would increase your. So maybe if they're on fire and you keep strife, they get bonuses.
Yeah, that might work.
That might work. If the NPC's opponent keeps strife symbols,
it negates the successes and opportunities that would go towards reducing consequences. It like cancels out those.
Something consequences.
Yeah, perfect.
Right. Exactly. Water. They get an extra action just like PCs. And void is they are immune to gaining strife. By the way, since they don't roll dice and don't get strife anymore, I'm going to go back up here to the example opportunities. And instead of 2 or fire 0, I'm going to change this. Where is it? No. Where is it? That's not correct. The one that gives people strife. Oh, give another character in the scene 1 or 2 strife if you're on fire stance. I'm going to give this a little plus. That's it.
A little plus?
Per opportunity spent.
Ah, yeah.
That's all I'm going to do to that. That way, you can just be like, on my roll, you get strife, you get strife, you get strife, you get strife, you get strife. And that will simulate them rolling dice and gaining strife. Since they're no longer rolling dice, they can't gain strife through rolling dice, right? But they should still be gaining strife through actions and stuff.
Yeah.
So this way, that will simulate that. You as the player are actively giving them strife.
And you can also do something where, like, certain techniques that NPCs get cost strife to use.
Give them strife. I love that idea. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Because now we're gonna make
fatigue to use. Some of them could take strife to use.
So now we're gonna make techniques for like the PC techniques are gonna kind of work the same, but there's gonna be like an NPC version of each technique maybe, which I think is fair. I think that's how it should work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're good. I think we did it. We're over time, but do you want to go a little further since we had technical difficulties?
I can't go super long, but I can go for a little bit longer if you want.
Okay, let's read some comments here. The fact that Fantasy Flight Games made an entire gosh dang NPC character sheet that they use for every NPC ever, but seemingly never made a dedicated sheet for GMs pains me. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't make an NPC sheet for you to fill out, nor did they give you a good way to make NPCs. They're like, take our regular NPCs, add this template on it that always makes them more powerful.
Yeah,
do you have something for a group of minions? Not yet. Not yet. But
I'm wondering if we should do something like minion rules in Old 7C where you could, like, a single attack could target multiple minions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
you can make opportunities to hit more than one minion.
I personally love the Chanbara style of that, where like most of the little guys that you're fighting should be kind of Doritos. They should be like chips that you can just crunch in your hand and be crunchy. And then every once in a while you come up against the like more big badass kind of
I think
NPCs.
If we were gonna do minion groups, I would kind of do it like this. A minion group uh, combat and political go up by 1 for every doubling of the group, of the number of members in the group. Every attack reduces the number of minions in the group by 1, plus 1 for every bonus success? Yeah. There you go. How does that sound? I forgot a little I here. Boop. Something like that. Minion groups can only be made out of similar NPCs.
Yeah, that works. It's what are they called? Thugs in
Thugs,
7C?
yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
That way, if you have 2 minions in the group, they get +1. Then the next +1 happens at 4 minions in the group. The next +1 happens at 8 minions in the group. And then you're like, oh, I killed 3 of them. They're down to 5. You can just.
Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna say they have a group number on their side. So if there's 8 in the group, then and you kill 2 of them, they go down to 6, and now you can recalculate their total effectiveness.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple to recalculate that.
Okay. Where else? The brain's the idea. Now it needs a mouth to figure out how to explain it. Sorry, I missed it. Do adversaries have bonus on stances? We kind of went through that. Different names for range bands is like engagement band or distance. Yeah, I kind of like that. Do you want to constrain the certain use of consequences depending on the stance of the adversary? I think there already should be constrained by... well, the stance of the adversary will tell that person... No.
I think some can have, like, some consequences can have constraints on needs to be in this stance, like, in order to be used.
We have that here, like striking as fire. He has to be on fire stance.
To be in fire stance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By a weapon while on fire stance. They have to be on fire stance to do that. Yeah, definitely, 100%. There's got to be techniques that only the adversary has to be on that stance to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. If you want a different name than yeah, we got that. I went to get some tea trying to catch up. NPCs abilities. Maybe the NPC can gain 3 fatigue to activate a martial ability, but 3 strife for an intrigue ability. Sounds fair to me. I don't think every ability should have a cost associated with it. I just think the Ronin ability is so powerful that it should have some sort of cost. Other abilities might just be fine, just them being able to use them and a PC able to counter them with...
And some other abilities might also come with a strife consequence or strife cost to them, or some might come with a, like, spend a void point cost to them. Like, I think that breaks down into how we approach techniques for NPCs. We'd have to kind of codify that and address how each technique might affect NPC or be effective.
How an NPC uses a technique towards a PC rather than...
Exactly.
Yeah. We'll go through that. I'm sure we'll have an entire...
we'll have a thing.
Entire episode about that.
Will be, just that.
Also, the fact there are no rules for players to give friendly NPCs upgrade through titles because they can't earn or spend XP to gain the benefits. It's sad for anyone who loves...
Titles will be another thing that we have to address entirely in another episode. I think titles are something that is... the way they work right now is kind of warped. disincentivizes people from ever wanting to seek out a title because it's going to slow their progression down.
It slows their progression down. You don't get the ability unless you finalize it.
Unless you finish it entirely, which is hard to do. And some of the XP requirements for them are ridiculous. For the benefit you get.
Yeah, for the ability that you get, it's not great.
Yeah. There has to be a better way of dealing with that and setting up abilities that come with titles. I think I kind of like the older system where it was like if you hit a certain like in order to get a certain status rating, you have to be given a title that comes with it, and that comes with its own kind of parasocial like respect in the world, like effect in the world. And I think that is a better way of going about it than attaching it to your XP expenditure.
Yeah. Also, the fact there are no rules for players to give friendly NPCs. Yeah, we just did that. Yeah. Yeah, you like the minion group thingy. Yeah. Titles do not work in 5th edition. Fantasy Flight Edition. 5th edition is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So I just call it FF Edition. FF Edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least they don't like the way they work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
I think we're good for today's stream.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we had those interruptions, but I think we kind of went through exactly what we wanted for NPCs in a bit more detail this time. And I think we shored up some of the like maybe misgivings people might have, and also like filled in the blanks that we had. Like, how are we going to do this? What are some of the hurdles that we have to overcome? And then we tried to overcome them.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I think there's still more to like solidify this and build a better foundation here, but we have a good roadmap for how to do that and a good conceptual like framework for doing that. And I think that will be what helps us lead into other parts of the game that will have to interact with this so that we can keep everything balanced.
Exactly. Okay. Thanks, Tarek, for hanging out with me. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Geez, there's a lot of you guys. I wish I could name you all. Orgiz, Folklore, Benji, Rikoshana, Chibi.
Potato.
Yeah, all you guys. If I didn't name somebody, I'm sorry. Y'all were wonderful.
Folklore, yeah.
Remember, if you go to the Patreon and you can make comments and suggestions directly to this document, and we'll put you on as an editor if you do that. Let's check out the poll before we go to see what happened there. Fatigued wins with 50% of the vote with 8 people voting. Thank you, everybody. We're going to wait till next week before we make any. So if you want to juice
keep
this
voting.
poll, go for it.
Yeah. Set up a bunch of other accounts and just keep voting for the one you want.
Yep. I quite like incapacitated because, well, the common idea of being incapacitated, being knocked unconscious, the actual meaning is just sapped of strength. Yeah, there is the definition of it that we should.
The connotation and the denotation.
Yeah. And the word really has changed over time. The same thing with strike. Strike just means you're pushing your sword forward. It doesn't mean you're actually hitting them. But if you have a successful strike, doesn't that mean you did hit somebody? But an L5R successful strike doesn't mean you hit somebody. It just means that person got to defend. So, yeah. How language is used and how we use it in everyday life, I think, trumps how an academic would use that language. That's how I feel. Anyways, we gotta go. What am I doing?
Bye, everybody.
Bye. And remember, go play your own game. Go roll some dice.